river run, past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us, by a commodious vicus of free circulation, back to Howth Castle and environs. Sir Tristram, Viola de Morris, frover the short sea, had passant corps re-arrived from North America on this side the scraggy isthmus of Europe Minor to wield the fight his peninsulate war. Nor had Top Sawyer's rocks by the stream Oconee exaggerated themselves to Lawrence County's gorges, while they went doubling their mumper all the time. Nor a voice from a fire bellows Mishe, Mishe to Tauf Tauf Thuart Petrick. Not yet, though very soon after, had a kid-scat bot-ended a bland old Isaac. Not yet, though all's fair in Venice, where so see Sethus wrath with Twan Nethenjo. Rot a peck of past malt had Jem or Shen brewed by Arclight, and Rory end to the Reginbrow was to be seen, ringsome on the aqua face. The fall. Bababadalgarakta kaminar ron con bron toneron tuon thon trobor haunos con tu hurden and thurnuk of a once wall-straight old par is retailed early in bed and later on life down through all Christian minstrelsy. The great fall of the off-fall entailed at such short notice the pshut of Finnegan, Ayre's solid man, that the Humpty Hill head of himself promptly sends an unquiring one well to the west in quest of his tumty-tum toes. And their upturned pike point and place is at the knock out in the park, where oranges have been laid to rust upon the green since Devlin's first loved Livy. What clashes here of Wilsgen wants, oystery gods gegen fishy gods, brekek, kekek, 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 coax, 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 walu, 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 guawa. Where the Baudelaires partisans are still out to Master Malachus migraines, and the Verdans catapulting the cannibalistics out of the white boys of Hoodiehead. Aesir gales and brummering stroms. Sod's brood, beamy fear. Sanglorians, save. Arms appeal with larms appalling. Killy kill killy, atoll, atoll. What chance cuddlies, what casuals aired and ventilated. What be me to loves induced by what tigoted absolvers? What true feeling for this hair with what strong voice of false Jacob? Oh, hear how hath sprawled met the dusked, the father of fornicationists, but, oh my shining stars and body, how has faint spent most high heaven, the sky sign of soft advertisement? But was is it? Ever sewers? The oaks of old, now they lie in peat, yet elms deep where ashes lay. Fall if you but will, rise you must, and none so soon either shall the farce for the nonce come to a set-down secular finish. Bagmaster Finnegan, of the stuttering hand, Freeman's Mora, lived in the broadest way imaginable in his rushlet, too far back for messages, before Joshuan judges had given us numbers, or Helveticus committed Deuteronomy. One yeasty day he sternly stuck his tat in a tub for to watch the futures of his fates, but ere he swiftly stuck it out again, by the might of Moses the very water was evaporated, and all the Genesis had met their exodus, so that ought to show you what a penchant true-cheat chap he was. And during mighty odd years, this man of Hod, cement and edifices, in topaz thorpe piled Bildung supra-Bildung upon the banks for the livers by the sowing-sow. He had a little 5 Annie, ugh, the little crather. With her hair in horns, tuck up your pardoner. Oft while barbulous, mithra ahead, with goodly trowel and grasp and ivor-oiled overalls, which he habitacularly fancied, like Heroon Childeric Agabirth, he would calculate by multiplicables the altitude and multitude, until he seesaw by neat light of the liquor where Twinned was born, his round-head staple of other days, to rise, in undress masonry upstanded, joy granted, a whaleworth of a sky-escape, of most eyeful hoith and towerly, originating from next to nothing, and celescalating the himmels and all. He architecti tipty-top ploftical, with a burning bush abob off its bauble top, and with larens or tulas clittering up, and tumbles or buckets clottering down. Of the first was he to bear arms and a name, Vasili Buslich of Riesengeborg. His crest of heraldry, in vert with ancillars, Troublon, Argent, et Higog, Poursuivant, horrid, horned. His scutcheon fest, with archers strung, Helio of the second. Hooch is for husbandman handling his hoe. Ho 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 ho, Mr. Finn, you're going to be Mr. Finn again. Come day morn and oh your wine, St. Day's Eve and your vinegar. Ha 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 ha, Mr. Fun, you're going to be fined again. What then, agent-like, brought about that tragedy Thursday, this municipal sin business? Our cube house still rocks as ear witness to the thunder of his Arafatas, but we hear also, through successive ages, that shabby chorus of uncalified muscle-hymns that would blackadize the whitest one ever hurtle-turtled out of heaven. Stay us, wherefore, in our search for righteousness, O Sustainer. What time we rise, and when we take up to toothpick, and before we lump down upon our leather bed, and in the night, and at the fading of the stars. For a nod to the Nabir is better than a wink to the Vipsanti. Otherways, ways, like that provost scoffing between the Jebel and the Gypsian Sea. Cropherb the Crunchbracken shall decide. Then we'll know if the feast is a fly day. She has a gift of sequence sight, and she all casually answers helpers, the dreamy dearie. Heed. It may have been a misfired brick, as some say, or it might have been due to a collapsus of his back promises, as others looked at it. There extant by now 1001 stories, all told of the same. But so sore did Abe-eyed Ivy's holy red apples. What with the Walhall's horrors of Rolls Rights, car hacks, Stonehenges, kissed vanes, tram trees, Fargo ballers, auto-kinotons, hippo hobbylies, street fleets, turn-in taxes, megafogs, circuses and wards modes, and basilicurks and Europa gods, and the hoists and the jolly brule, and the peeler in the coat, and the Mecklenburg bitch bite at his ear, and the Merlinborough burrocks and his 4 old porcourts, the boar, the moor, and his blight black working stacks at 12 pins a dozen, and the newbie buses slading along Safety First Street, and the Derry Jellybees snooping around Tell No Taylor's corner, and the fumes and the hopes and the stroopy thump of his V's indigenous Rome keepers, home sweepers, dome creepers, Thurum and Thurum in fancy mud murrumed, and all the uproar from all the off roofs, a roof for May and a reef for you, but under his bridge suits Tony. When warning Phil filled tippling full, his heart felt heavy, his body did shake. There was a wall, of course, in erection. Dimp. He stuttered from the latter. Damp. He was dud. Dump. Mastabatum, mastabetom, when a mon marries his lotus all long, for whole the world to see. Scheiß, I should she. Ma cool, or why did ye die of a trying Thursday morning? Sobs they sided at Finnegans Christmas wake, all the hooligans of the nation, prostrated in their consternation, and their duodecimally profusive plethora of ululation. There was plums and grooms and sheriffs and citheras and raiders and cinnamon too, and all joined in with the shoutmost joviality. Agog and Magog and the round of them agrog, to the continuation of that celebration until Hen and Finnegans' extermination. Some in kin chorus, more ken keening, belling him up and felling him down. He's stiff, but he's steady as primal limb. 'Twas he was the decent gay labouring youth. Sharpen his pillow scone, tap up his beer. Where in this world would ye hear such a din again? With their deep brow Fundics and their dusty Fidelios, they laid him broad on a lang last bed, with the apocalypse of Finneski for his feet, and a barrowload of Genesis o'er his head. T the tootle of the fluid hang the twaddle of the fuddled, oh. Hurrah, there's but young glebe for the owl globe wheels in view, which is tautologically the same thing. Well, him a being so on the flounder of his bulk, like an overgrown babeling, let we peep, see. At home, well, see PG ot, platter plate. Hum. From Shopperlist to Bailiwick, or from Ashton to Baranoth, or from by the banks to round the head, or from the foot of the bill to Ireland's eye, he calmly extensories. And all the way, a horn, from fjord to fjell, his bavins oberbows shall veil him rockbound. Wah, 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 in swim, swam, and all the livelong night, the Dale darkling night, the night of blurry bells, her flitter flute and tricky trochees. Oh, Carina, wake him. With her Issevens and her patter Jack Martins about all the inns and houses, telling a tale of a tum, telling a tale of a teary turty torbling. Grace before glutton. For what we are, give a gross if we are about to believe. So pull the bag and pass the kish for cross sake. Omen, so sires. Grandpapa's is fallen down, but Grinny spreads the board. Was on the joint of a dash, Finfo from the fosh. Was be his bacon head, a loaf of sing pantry's Kennedy bread, and was hitched to the hop in his tail, a glass of Daniel O'Donnell's foam as old a Dublin ale. But lo, as you would quaff off his fraud stuff and sink teeth through that pith of a flower-white body, behold of him as behemoth, for he is no way more. Finish. Only a photograph of a yestern scene, almost rubicund Samosalar, ancient from out the ages of the Agapemonides, he is smolten in our midst, woe be canned and packed away. So that meal's dead off for summon, schluck, schleiss, and good rittering. Yet may we not see still the Bronto-Ichthyan form outlined, as slumbered, even in our own night time, by the sedge of the troutling stream that Bronto loved and Bronto has a lean on? Hic cubat idyllis, apud libertinam parvulam. What if she be in flax or flitters, reeky rags or Sunday clothies, with a mint of mines or beggar a pennyweight? Arrah, sure, we all love little Annie Ruiny. Or, we mean to say, Loved little Anna Rainey, when under her brella, mid piddle mid puddle, she nanny goes nancing by. Yo, Brontolone slurps, you snores! Upon Ben Heather, in Sepal is out too. The crannic had on him, caster of his reasons, Peer Youthner in yond mist. Whose? His clay feet, swarded in verdigras, stick up stark where he last fell on them, by the munt of the magazine wall, where our magazine all, with her sister in shawl. While over against this Belle's Alliance being dill 60, oh lolo dill, backsides of the four, bom, tararabom, lurk the ambushes, the sight of the living in wait of the upjock and hockums. Hence, when the clouds roll by, Jamie, a proud's eye view is enjoyable of our mounding's mass, now Willingdone National Museum, with, in some greenish distance, the charmful Waterloo's country, and they two quite white villagettes who here show of themselves so gigglesome mingst the foliages, the pretty leas. Penetrators are permitted into the museum mount free. Welch and the Paddy Patkinses, 1 shilling. Readers members, invalids of old guard, find pussy prams to sate the sort of their butt. For her passkey, supplied to the janitrix, the mistress case. Tip. This the way to the Museyroom. Mind your hats going in. Now yous are in the Willingdone Museyroom. This is a precious gun. This is a fringe. Tip. This is the flag of the Prussians, the cap and sorcerer. This is the bullet that bang the flag of the Prussians. This is the fringe that fire on the bull that bang the flag of the Prussians. Salute the cross gun! Up with your pike and fork! Tip. Bullsford. Fine. This is the 111 hat of Lipolium. Tip. Lipolium hat. This is the Willingdone on his same white horse, the Coke and Hape. This is the big Shrotter Willingdone, grand and magentic, in his gold tin spurs, and his iron ducks, and his quarter-brass woody shoes, and his magnate's garters, and his Bangkok's best, and Goliath's goloshes, and his Peloponnesian war truce. This is his big white horse. Tip. This is the 3 Lipolium boyne crouching down in the living ditch. This is an enemy skilling English. This is a Scotcher grey. This is a Davy, stooping. This is the bog Lipolium murdering the Lipolium bag. A Gallagher's argument. This is the petty Lipolium boy that was neither bag nor bog. Assay, Tasholf is Tormosh, Dirty McDyke, and Harry O'Hurry, all of them arminous varminous. This is Delian Alps. This is Mount Tivol. This is Mount Tipsy. This is the Grandmont's Injun. This is the Creamier line of the Alps, hooping to shelter shock the 3 Lipoliums. This is the Ginnies with their leghorns fainting to read in the handmaid's book of strategy while making their war unbesides the Willingdone. The Ginnies is a coup in her hand, and the Ginnies is a rave in her hair, and the Willingdone get the band up. This is big Willingdone Memorial Telescope Wunderworker, upsides on the flanks of the Ginnies. Sex caliber horsepower. Tip. This is me Belgium, sneaking his Philippi out of his most two-sized bottle of Tilsiter. This is the libel on the battle. Awful grimace sunshed Cromwelly looted. This is the Ginnies Hastings dispatch for to irrigate the Willingdone. Dispatch in thin red lines across the short front of me Belgium. Ja, lieber Arthur, Viersieken, field gaze thy tiny Frau, Hagacting, nap. That was the tic-tacs of the Ginnies for to Fontenoy the Willingdone. She. The Ginnies is jealous at courting all the Lipoliums, and the Lipoliums is gone boycotting crazy onto the 1 Willingdone. and the Willingdone get the band up. This is Boat Belcham, bonnet to Busby, breaking his secret word with a ball up his ear to the Willingdone. This is the Willingdone's herald dispatch back. Dispatch deployed on the Regent's rear of me Belcham. Salaman Graal. Aye, aye, aye. Cherry Ginnies. Fig Tree You. Damn Fairy Ann. Wutsche, Willingdone. That was the first joke of Willingdone. Tick for tack. He. This is me Belcham in his 12-mile caoutchoucs, wheat, tweed, and stamped forth foremost, footing the camp for the Ginnies. Drink a sip, drank a sup, for he'd as sooner buy a Guinness than he'd stale store stout. This is Rouge's balls. This is a Trinch. This is Mistletoes. This is Canon Futter with the popey nose after his 100 days indulgence. This is the blessed. Tara's withers. This is Ginnies in the bonny born bluches. This is Lipoliums in the rowdy houses. This is the Willingdone by the splinters of cork or the fire. Tonnerre! Bull's ear! Play! This is Camelry. This is Floodens. This is the Sulphurines in action. This is the Momily. This is Panic Burns. Almighty God! Arthis Toulouse! This is Willingdone cry. Brum, brum, come brum! This is Ginny's cry. Underwetter! Goat strip fin lambs! This is Ginny's rinning away to the Austerlists down a bunker's heels, with a nip nippy nip and a trip trippy trip so airy, for their hut's right there. Tip! This is me Belcham's thank you silver plate for kitchen the crepes in the cool of his canister. Poor the pay. This is the Bismarck of the Marathon Mary of the Ginnies they left behind them. This is the Willingdone brandish his same memorial telescope Sophie Kepo for his royal devotion on the Rinaway Ginnies. Gambariste de la porca, Balaveras Fimieras. This is the pettiest of the Napoleons, toffee thief, that spy on the same Willingdone from his big white horse, the Cape in Hope. Stonewall Willingdone is an old Maxi Montromany. Lipoliums is nice hung busheless. This is Hyena Hennessy laughing aloud at the Willingdone. This is Lipstick Dooley creaking the funk from the Hennessy. This is the Hindu Shima Shin between the Dooley boy and the Hennessy. Tip! This is the vixy old Willingdone picked up the half of the three-foiled hat of Lipoliums from out of the bloodle filth. This is the Hindu waxing Ranjimate for a bomb shoob. This is the Willingdone hanking the half of the hat of Lipoliums up the tail on the backside of his big white horse. Tip! That was the last joke of Willingdone. Hit, hit, hit. This is the same white horse of the Willingdone, Culpenhelp, waggling his talus croup with the half of the hat of Lipoliums to insult on the Hindu sea-boy. Nay, nay, nay. Bull's rag, foul! This is the sea-boy, Madras Hatteras, up jump and pump him, cried to the Willingdone. Up, Pukaroo! Puka Europe! This is the Willingdone, born stable gentleman, tinders his matchbox to the Kersigan Shima Shin. Basaka, you dead. This is the do for him sea-boy, blow the whole of the half of the hat of Lipoliums off of the top of the tail on the back of his big white horse. Tip! Bullseye! Game! How Copenhagen ended. This way the Museyroom. Mind your boots going out. Phew! What a warm time we were in there. But how killing is here the airabouts. We know where she lives, but you must not tell I.1 for the lamp of Jigger Lanthorn. It's a candle little house of a month and one windies. Down a down, high down a down, and numbered quaintly mine. And such reasonable weather too. The vagrant winds a waltz around the pilt downs, and on every blasted gnolly rock, if you can spot 50, I spy 4 more, there's that gnarlybird gathering. A run a little, do a little, prie a little, pour a little, wipe a little, kicks a little, sever a little, eat a little, whine a little, can a little, health a little, pelf a little gnarlybird. A very tableland of bleak-barred fields. Under his 7 Rothschilds lies one, lump-roar. His glove to side him, scud unhorsed. Our pigeons pair are flown for north cliffs. The 3 of crows have flapped it southernly, cracking of debacle to the quarters of that sky whence tribus answer. Wail 'tis well. She niver comes out when thon's on shower, or when thon's flash with his nixie girls, or when thon's blowing tomb cracks down the gales of thon. No, Nubo, no. Neblas on you live. Her would be too muchy afreed of bury me leg and blind me rolling eyes and all the deed in the woe. Fee, fo, fum. She just as hopes till buys will be buys. Here, and it goes on to appear now, she comes. A peace fugle, a paradise bird, a parry-pot mother, a Pringle pig in the island escapee, with peewees and powwows and baggy on her bicky-backy, and a flick-flask fleck flinging its pixie-lighting packed humor my bows, picking here, pecking there, pussy, plunder pussy. But it's the army tides tonight, Militopukos, and to morn we wish for a muddy kissments to the minutia workers, and there's to be a gorge abstruse for happiness child whoever were. Come neighbor me and Suso sing the day we celebrate. She's borrowed the coach's headlight the better to pry. Who goes cute, goes suker and shoes around, and all spoiled goods go into her knapsack. Cartridges and rattling buttons, nappies, patties, and flasks of all nations, clavicures and scampulars, maps, keys, and wood piles of halfpennies, and moonlit brooches with blue-stained breeks in 'em, and bowstone night garters, and masters of shoe sets, and nickelly necks, and fodder all Michael, and a lugly parson of Kates, and howitzer muchies, and midgets and maggots, ills and ells with lofts of toffs and plurs of bells. And the last sigh that come through the heart, Buckleat, and the fairest sin the sun saw, that's Kjark, with kiss Chris, cross Chris, kiss cross, undo life's end, slain. How beautiful, and how true to wife of her, when strangely forbidden to steal our historic presents from the past post-propheticals, so as will make us all lordy hares and lady medices of a pretty nice kettle of fruit. She's living in our midst of debt and laughing through all plores for us. Her birth is uncontrollable, with a naperon made to mask, and her sabbows her kicking areas. So sere, so solly, if yous ask me and I sark you. How! How! Gricks may rise and troisers fall, there being 2 sides for ever a picture, for in the byways of high improvidence, that's what makes life worth leaving, and the world's a cell for sitters to sit in. Let young women run away with the story, and let young men talk smooth behind the butler's back. She knows her night's duty while Luntum sleeps. Did ye save any tin? Says he. Did I what? With a grin, says she. And we all like a merry den because she's mercenary. Though the length of the land lies under liquidation, flute. And there's ne'er a hairbrow nor an eyebrush on this glabrous face of her shaft water welter, she'll loan a vesta and hire some peat, and such the shores her cockles to heat, and she'll do all a turf woman can to piff the business on, paff, to puff the blaziness on, puff puff. And even if Humpty shall fall frumpty times as awkward again, in the beard's booster loom of all our grand remonstrances, there'll be Ix for the breakers come to mourn him, sunny side up with care. So true is it that there where's a turnover, the tay is wet too. And when you think you catch sight of a hind, make sure but you're cocked by a hin. Then, as she is on her behaviorite job of Quainan's bandy, fruiting for firstlings and taking her tithe, we may take our review of the two mounds, to see nothing of the himples here as at elsewhere, by sixes and sevens, like so many Hegels and Colleens sitten around, scent preached in some potreek, in their swisher-wish satins and their taft-taft tights, playing Borton's folly at a tree-party on the planko in the park. Stip up, Mikos, make strake for Minas, by order, Nicholas Proud. We may see and hear nothing, if we choose, of the short-legged Bergens of Corkhill, or the Bergamoors of Aberhill, or the Bergagambals of Summerhill, or the Bergensellies of Misery Hill, or the country-bossed Burgons of Constitution Hill, though every crowd has its several tones, and every trade has its clever mechanics, and each harmonical has a point of its own. Olaf's on the rise, and Ivor's on the lift, and Citrix places between them. But all they are all there, scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood that will solve and salve life's robulus rebus, hopping round his middle like kippers on a griddle, oh, as he lies dormant from the macroborg of Holdhard to the microberg of Pied de Poudre. Behove this sound of Irish sense. Really? Here English might be seen. Royally? One sovereign pun to Petery Pence. Regally? The silence speaks the scene. Fake. So this is Dyoublong? Hush. Caution. Echoland. How charmingly exquisite. It reminds you of the outwashed engravier that we used to be blurring on the blotch wall of his encamped house. Used they? I am sure that tiring chabble shoveler with a musical chocolate box, Myrie Mitchell, is listening. I say, the remains of the outworn Gravemuir where used to be blurried the battlements of the incubus. Used we? He is only pretending to be stugging at the Jubilee harp from a second existed listener, fiery ferally. It is well known. Look for himself and see the old but new. WKOO. Here, by the Mosselheim wall, fim fim, fim fim, with the grand fun for all, fum fum, fum fum. 'Tis optophone which onto feigns. List, Wheatstone's magic lyre. They will be tuggling for river. They will be listening for all of. They will be pre-tumbling for over. The harp's discord shall be theirs for all aves. 4 things, therefore, saith our hereditary Mammon Lucius in his grand old Historiorum, wrote near Boreorum, bluest book in Bale's annals. FT in Deflinarski ne'er shall fail, till heather smoke and cloudweed airs Isle shall pall. And here now they are, the fear of Notitis, unum, ada, a balban boss surmounted upon an elder man. I, doom, nisam, a shoe on a puir old woman. Trium, Tammuz, an auburn maid, of brine a bride, to be deserted. Ah dear, quodlibus, Marches 1, A pen no weightier nor a pole post. And so, and all, Sukkoth. So, how idlers win turning pages on pages, as innocents with Anacleat play Popeye anti-pop, the leaves of the living in the book of the deeds, annals of themselves, timing the cycles of events grand and national, bring facile-wise to pass how. 1132 AD. Men, like to ants or emmets, wandern upon a crude white whalfisk which lay in a runnel. Blobby wares up at Dyoublong. 566 AD. On Balfire's eve of this year after deluge, a crone that had a wicked kish for to hail dead turfs from the bog, looked under the blade of her kish as she ran for to sow this feish her curiosity, and be me soul, but she found herself sack full of sword, goody, quick and shoon, and small elegant brooks, so rich in sweat. Blood she works at Hurdle's Ford. Silent. 566 AD. At this time it fell out that the brazen-locked damsel grieved, so brothers solas, because that puppet, her minion, was ravished of her by the ogre Puropius Pius. Bloody wars in belly ochacliach belly. 1132 AD. 2 sons at an hour were born until a good man and his hag. These sons called themselves Caddy and Primus. Primus was a sentryman and drilled all decent people. Caddy went to winehouse and wrote O Peace a farce. Bloody words for Dublin. Somewhere, apparently, in the gin and go gap between Antediluvius and Anna Dominant, the copyist must have fled with his scroll. The billy flood rose, or an elk charged him, or the surtrap whirled right from the excessissimos Empyrean, bolt in some earth spake, or the Deneman gallus banged pen the blitty Duran. A scribicide then and there is led off under old code, with some fine covered by 6 marks or 9 pins in metalman, for the sake of his labour's dross, while it will be only now, and again in our rear of our era, as an upshoot of military and civil engagements, that a Janicure was led onto the scaffold for taking the same fine sum covertly by meddlement with the drawers of his neighbour's safe. Now after all that, far-fetched and peregrine, ordinient or clear, lift we our ears, eyes of the darkness, from the tome of Liber Lividus, and Toh! How paisibly ernical, all dimmering dunes and glomering glades, self stretches afore us our Friedland's plain. Lean, ye stone pine, the pastor lies with his crook. Young pricket by pricket's sister nibbleth on returned viridities. Amid her rocking grasses the herb trinity shams lowliness. Sky up is of ever grey. Thus too for donkey's years. Since the bouts of Hebe and Herriman, the cornflowers have been staying at Ballymun. The dusk rose has choosed out Goatstown's hedges. Tulips have pressed to gather them by sweet rush, townland of twilights. The white thorn and the red thorns have variegate the May valleys of Knockmaroon. And, though for rings round them, during a chiliad of periheligans, the Fomorians have brittled the tooth of the Danes, and the oxman has been pestered by the firebugs, and the joints have thrown up cherry building to the Kevinses, and little on the green is child's father to the city. Year, year, and laugh tears! These pack-sealing buttonholes have quadrilled across the centuries, and whiff now waft to us, fresh and made of all smiles, as on the eve of Killall Who. The babblers with their thangas vain have been, confusium hold them. They were and went. Thigging thugs were, and hound-hymn song-toms were, and comely norgels were, and polyfool fiancés. Men have thought, clerks have sir-hummed, the blonde has thought of the brune. Else kissed du me, mean carry piggy? And the dunkel dames have countered with the hellish fellows. Who ails Tom Codo, a space of dumb-bills silly? And they fell upon one another, and themselves they have fallen. And still now a nights, and by nights of yore, do all bold floras of the field to their shy fawn lovers say only, call me, ere I will to thee, and, but a little later, pluck me, whilst I blush. Well may they wilt, marry, and profusedly blush betroth, for that saying is as old as the Howits. Lave a whale a while in a wheelbarrow, isn't it the truth I'm telling ye? To have fins and flippers that shimmy and shake. Timmy can tempt her, tempting tem. Flappity, flippity, flippow. Hop! In the name of Annam, this curl on the copje, in pelted thongs, aparth, alone, who the Joe bigger be he? Forshapen his pigmate hogshead, shrunk his plot's foot. He hath locked toes, this short shins, and, oh behold, that's pictorial, his mamma muscles, most mysterious. It is slakin nuncheon out of something's brain pan. Me seemeth a dragon's man. He is all munst on the keef fief by here, is constable Saxon, be it junipery or February, Marex or Elbrill, or the ramping riots of Purios and Frorios. What a queer sort of a man! It is evident the Mitchin daddy. Let's we overstep his fire defences and these crawls of slit-sucked marrow bones. Cave. He can perhaps posture us the pillory way to Hercules' pillar. Come on, fool, porter fool. Hosiert women blown monk sewer? Excuse us, Charlie guy. You tolladay Donsk? You Tolkativska Widzian? You spiggity Anglese? You Fonio Saxo? Clear also. 'Tis a jute. Let us swap hats and exchange a few strong verbs we could either yap yesser the best the blotty creeks. Jute. Utah. Mutt. Mox pleasured. Jute. Are you Jeff? Mutt. Some hearts. Jute. But you're not Jeff Mute. Mutt. No, only an utterer. Jute. What? What is the matter with you? Mutt. I became astonished stummer. Jute. What a horrible thing to be cause. How, Mutt? Mutt. Upon the bottle shirt. Jute. Whose puddle? Wherein? Mutt. The inns of Dungtarv, where used ought to be he. Jute. You that side your voice are almost inedible to me. Become a bitskin more visible, as if I were you. Mutt. Has a fancy. Buru usurp. I trample from wrath in my mind when I remember him. Jute. One eye gone black. Bisons is bisons. Let me for all your hesitancy cross your qualm with drink guilt. Here have silvern coin, a piece of oak. Guineas he's good for you. Mutt. Louis, How wouldn't I not know it? The intelligible great cloak of Cedric Silky Shag. Get mealy faulty rices for one Dublin bar. Old grillsy growlsy. He was poached on in that tentacle spot. Here were the liveries, monomark. There were the Mrs. Mooney, Minican Pass. Jute. Simply because, as Taciturn pretells, our wrong story shortener, he dumped-teed the whole borough of rubbages onto soil here? Mutt. Just how a pudding stone in at the brook sells by a river pool. Jute. Lord old marshy, with what for a nose like? Mutt. Summular with a bull on a clump turf. Rux rarum rex room. I could snore to him of the spumy horn, with his woolselay side in, by the neck I am Sutton on, did Brian O'Flynn. Jute. Boiled oil and raw honey on me, when I can burely forstand a weird from Stoke to Finnegan such a potwat as your Rotterdam rotter, unheard of and unseen. Good after meal. See you doomed. What? Quite a gream. But save a sec. Walk a Dunbling groundward this Albertile, and you shall see how old ye plain of my elders, Humphrey and ours, where wont to wail Wimbrel to Peavy over the saltings, where will be city by law of Ismon, where by a draw of sinewy ice flow was, from his in the beginning to whose finish there punct. Let hear him murmur, mere merge two races, sweet and brack, morthering rue. Hither, crashing eastwards, they are insurgents. Hence, cooled ebb, they requiesce. Countlessness of life stories have nether fallen by this plage, flickers flowflakes, litters from aloft, like a vast wizard all of worlds. Now they're all tombed to the mound, Ishkes to Ishkes, Erde from Erde. Pride, O pride, thy prize. Jute. Stench! Mutt. Fiat fuit. Herein under lie they, large by the small, and ever night life also the strange. Babylon, the great grand hotel with Tittle-Mouse, Alp on Ewig, drunken on Ilt, like a sequel to an equal in this sound cemetery which is Liebes love. Jute. Smord! Mutt. Mild und leise, by the fierce wave be knotted, Despont's song, and Thanacestrus' mount have swallowed up them all. This hourth of years is not safe brick dust, and being humus the same returns. He who ruins it may raid it on all fours. Oxtl, the frixtl, trixtl, crumbling. Semi-sooth the fair for humbling, humble the fair. But speak it also swiftly, moulder. Be in your wished. Jute. Wished? What? The giant forficules with Amni the Fay. Jute. How? Mutt. Here is wise king's grab. Jute. Whereat? Mutt. Are you a Stone Age, Jute you? Jute. I am thunderstruck, Thingmud. Stoop. If you are absent-minded to this clay book, what curios of signs, please stoop, in this Allephbed. Can you read, since we and thou had it out already, its world? It is the sum told of all. Many miscegenations on miscegenations. Tikel. They lived and laughed and loved and left. Forsin. Thy kingdom is given to the Medes and Porsons. The Meander tale, a loss and again of our old Heidenberg in the days when head-in clouds walked the earth. In the ignorance that implies impression, that knits knowledge, that finds the name form, that wets the wits, that convey contacts, that sweetens sensation, that drives desire, that adheres to attachment, that dogs death, that bitches birth, that entails the ensuance of existentiality. But with a rush out of his navel reaching the reredos of Ramesbatham. A terriculous Vivlion view this. Queer, and it continues to be, quacky. A hedge, a celt, an ear share, the purpose of which was to cassay the earth crust at all of ours. Furrow wards, beggar wards, like oxen at the turnpath. Here say figurines bellicose arming and mounting. Mounting and arming bellicose figurines see here. Further, this little effigy is for a fire thing called a flint for all. Face at the east. Oh, I fay. Face at the waist. Ho, you fi. Up bop and dump 'em. Face to face. When a part so petite does duty for the hollows, we soon grow to use of an all for a bit. Here, please to stoop, a silverin cute petite piece of quite a peculiar interest, in as little as they are the pellets that make the tom-tummy's payroll. Right drank Ragnaroks, and with these rocks orango tangos wrangled rough and right go wrong. Wisher, why did tha? Thick is for thorn that stuck in its toil, like some fool's traitor thrust for vengeance. What a nice old nested almanacs. A midden-height horde of abjects. Olives, beets, Kimmels, Dollies, Alfreds, Beedies, Cormacs and Daltons. Owlets eeks, oh stoop to please, here, creakish from age and all now quite obsolete. An old worldy bobbleworth, hoard worth a wipograss. See the snake worms every side. Our Durbin is swarming in sneaks. They came to our island from Triangular to Chater beyond the wet prairie, reared up in the midst of the cargon of prohibitive pomfructs. But along landed Paddy Dippingham, and his garbage cans cotched the creeps of them pricker than our whose stare out of man could quick up her what's that's. Some divide and some the lot, but the tally turns round the same Balafuson. Racketeers and botloggers. Axe on thwacks, X and Y's. One by one place 1b3, ditto and 1b4. 2 nurses 1 make a plausible 3, and idiom behind. Starting off with a big boar and 3-legged calvers and iver-grained jaddises with a message in their mouths. An 100-filled unleavened weight of liberorum Q to con and we can till all horrors eve. What a Neanderthal tale to unfurl, and with what an end in view of squatter and anti-squatter and post-prone anti-squatter. To say to us to be, every Tim, Mick and Larry of us, sons of the sod, sons, little sons, yea and little sons. When us is not to be, every Sue, Sis and Sally of us, doctors of Nan. Accusative ansire, damn to infinities. True, there was in Nilos Diabos as yet no lumpant papier in the waste, and might mountain pen still groaned for the mices to let flee. All was of ancient tree. You gave me a boot, signs on it, and I ate the wind. I quizzed you a quid, with for what? And you went to the quad. But the world, mind, is, was, and will be writing its own runes forever, man, on all matters that fall under the ban of our infra-rational senses, for the last milch camel, the heart vein throbbing between his eyebrows, has still to moor before the tomb of his cousin Charmian, where his date is tethered by the palm that's hers. But the hour, the smiting, the day of decision is not now. A bone, a pebble, a ramskin. Chip them, chap them, cut them up always. Leave them to terror cook in the sloth of the mothering pot. And Gutenmorg with his Cro-Magnon charter, tinting fast and great primer, must once for omnibus step rubic red out of the WordPress, else is there no virtue more in alcoholen. For that, the rapt one warns, is what papier is made of, hides and hints and misses in prints, till ye finally, though not yet end-like, meet with the acquaintance of Mr. Typus, Mistress Taupe, and all the little type-topies. Fill stop. So you need hardly spell me how every word will be bound over to carry 70 top-tipsical readings throughout the book of Dublin's giant. May his forehead be darkened with mud who would sunder, till Daleth, Mahoma, who oped it, closeth thereof the door. Cry not yet. There's many a smile to Nondum, with city maids per man, sir, and the parks so dark by candlelight. But look what you have in your hand, self. The movables are scrawling in motions, marching, all of them ago, in pit-pat and zing-zang, for every busy earwig's a bit of a Tory tale to tell. Once upon a time, and twos behind the lettuce leaf, and threes among the strawberry beds. And the chicks picked their teeth, and the donkey he began. You can ask your ass if he believes it. And so Cuddy only wallops of heels. That one of a wife with faulty barnets, for then was the age when hoops ran high, of a Noach and a chopped wife, or of a pomful grave and a family of levity, or of golden youth that wanted gelding, or of what the mischief miss made a man do. Mal Merrydad, he was reversed so gassed by the frisk of her frasks and her pretty perique. May fay, she's la gay, this snaky woman, from that tripiary toe expectung pellic. Veal Valentine eyes. She's the very best Winnie blows gnawn good. Flew in, flow in. Oh, whore! So it's sure it was her, not we. But lay it easy, gentlemen, we're in nearing of a Norwich. So beanie, teeny, come see, het vis if he newt. Listen, I am doing it. Hark, the corn entreats, and the larp notes prittle. It was of a night, late, lang time agone, in an old stane eld, when Adam was delvin and his madamine spinning watersills, when Malk Mounty Naughty Man was every bully, and the first leal river robber that ever had her ain way, everybody else to his love-saking eyes, and when every Billy lived a love with everybody else, and Jarl Van Hoother had his burnt head high up in his lamp house, laying cold hands on himself. And his two little Jiminies, cousins of ours, Christopher and Hilary, were kick-a-heeling their dummy on the oilcloth floor of his home-rig castle and earthen house. And, be Dermot, who come to the keep of his inn only the niece of his in-law, the Prankquean. And the Prankquean pulled a rosy one and made her wit for inst the door. And she lit up, and Fireland was ablaze. And spoke she to the door in her petty Perusian. Mark the wens, why do I am a looker like a poss of porter peas? And that was how the skirmishes began. But the door hand-worded her grace in Dutch Nassau. Shot! So her Grace O'Malice kid-snapped up the Trimini Christopher, and into the shandy westerness she ran. And Jarl Van Hoose wallaced after her with soft dove's gall. Stop, thief, stop, come back to my earrings, stop! But she swore it to him. Unlikelihood! And there was a brand new wail that same Sabbath night, the falling angles, somewhere in Erio. And the Prankquean went for her 40 years walk into Le Monde, and she washed the blessings of the love spots off the Jiminy with soap Sulliver Soddles, and she had her 4 owlers masters for to tauch him his tickles, and she converted him to the one sure all good, and he became a luderman. So then she started to rain, and, be retom, she was back again at Jarl Van Hoose's in a brace of samers, and the Jiminy with her in a pinafront, late at night, at another time. And where did she come but to the bar of his bristlery? And Jarl Van Hoose had his bare tholo bruised heels drowned in his cellar malt, shaking warm hands with himself, and the Jiminy Hillary and the dummy in their first infancy were below on the tear sheet, ringing and coughing like Broder and Hither. And the Prankquean nipped a paly one and lit up again, and red cocks flew flackering from the hill combs. And she made her witter before the wicket, saying, Mark the tway, why do I am a looker like 2 pots of porter peas? And shot, says the wicket, hand-wording her Majesty. So her Majesty, aforethought, sat down a Jiminy, and took up a Jiminy, and all the lily pathways to Woman's land she rain. And Jarl Van Hoose bleathed at her with a loud fine gale. Stop, dumb, stop, come back with my earrings, stop! But the Prankquean swore did. Am liking it. And there was a wild old grand new wail that all the same Lawrencey night of star shootings, somewhere in Erio. And the Prankquean went for her 40 years walk in Turnlemim, and she punched the curses of Cromquewell with a nail of a top into the Jiminy, and she had her 4 laxical monitrix to tauch him his tears, and she provoted him to the one certain all secure, and he became a Christian. So then she started raining, and in a pair of changers, bedomed her, she was back again at Jarl Van Hoose's, and the Larry Hill with her under her abromet. And why would she halt at all, if not by the ward of his mansion home of another nice lace for the 3rd charm? And Jarl Van Hoose had his hurricane hips up to his pantry box, ruminating in his hold 4 stomachs, dare, oh dare, and the Jiminy Tuffer trees and the dummy were beloved on the watercloth, kissing and spitting, and roguing and poguing, like knave paltry and naive bride, and in their 2nd infancy. And the Prankquean picked a blank and lit out, and the valleys lay twinkling. And she made her wittest in front of the archway of Triumph, asking, Mark the tris, why do I am a lookalike 3 pots of porter peas? But that was how the skirmishes end up. For, like the Campbells a-coming with the Falklands of lightning, Jarl Van Hoose Bonerges himself, the old terror of the dames, came hip-hop handy-hap out through the pike-opened archway of his 3 shuttered castles, in his broad ginger hat, and his civic choler, and his all-above helmet, and his bull-bragging socks and gloves, and his lead-broke breeks, and his cat-got bandolier, and his fur-framed penuncular combots, like a rot-yellin' grublean orange man in his violet indigonation, to the whole length of the strength of his bowman's bill. And he clopped his rude hand to his easy hitch, and he ordered in his thick speech for her to shut up shop, Dappy. And the Dappy shot the shutter club. Percudus curunbur groia goggaloi gorgremit gunthus ruma thuna radidili fertitili bumulunukunun. and they all drank free. For one man in his armor was a fat match always for any girl's undershirts. And that was the first piece of alliterative porphyry in all the flamant, floody, fletcherous world. How Kersey the Tyler made a sweet unclose to the Navilian capital. So far shalt thou see, between ye and be. The Prankquean was to hold her dummy ship, and the Jiminy's was to keep the peace wave, and Van Hooser was to get the wind up. Thus, the hearsomeness of the burger felicitates the whole of the polis. O Phoenix culprit! Ex nihilo malo comes Michaelmas bonum. Hill, Rill, once in company, billeted, let's be proud of. Breast high and bestride. Only for that these will not breathe upon Norensen or Ironian the secret of their sourcelessness. Quarry Silex, Humphrey no answer. Undigentian Festinies, Livia no answer. Vulcan cap is on him, frowned. Adurient, he would eavesdrip, were it mouse at hand, were it din of bottles in the far ear. Murk, his veils are darkling. With lips she lispeth to him all to time, of such on such, and tho on tho. She he, she ho, she ha to la. Herr Flug, if he could bed twig her. Impalpabund he appears. The sound waves are his buffeteers. They tromp him with their tromps. The wave of Rory, and the wave of Hoosht, and the wave of Boho Horde, and the wave of never heed them horse-luggers and listen to mine. Land-loved by his Nibur mistress, and perpetrified in his offsprung, sapes and suckers, the moaning pipers could tell him to his face back, the loathly one whose lobe we are devourers of, how but for his hold halibut, or her to her pewter puff, the lipperlip one whose lipe we drink at, how before her tiddywink of a windfall, our breed and washer givers, there would not be a holy spear on the town, nor a vestal flouting in the dock, nay, to make plain avowals, nor a you nor an I to play cash in Novo Nilbut by swamplight, nor a tool or tall, and noddy hint to the convenience. He dug in and dug out, by the skill of his tilth for himself and all belonging to him, and he sweated his crew beneath his auspice for the living, and he earned his dread, that dragon volant, and he made louse for us, and delivered us to ball weevils amen. Unfru chikta uru vukru, that mighty liberator, and begat he did, our ancestor most worshipful, till he thought of a better one in his window's house with that blush mantle upon him from ear's end to ear's end. And would again, could whispering grasses wake him, and may again, when the fiery bird disembers, and will again, if so be sooth by elder to his youngest shall be said. Have you wines for my wedding? Did you bring bride and bedding? Will you whoop for my deading is a wake? Uskiat bocham. Anna Makandul. Did ye drink me dawn ale? Now, be aisy, good Mr. Finnemore, sir, and take your leisure like a god on pension, and don't be walking abroad. Sure you'd only lose yourself in Heliopolis now, the way your roads in Capella Wester are, that winding there after the Calvary, the Northumbrian and the Fifth Barrow and Wadling's Raid and the Bowermoor, and wet your feet maybe with the foggy dews abroad. Meeting some sick old bankrupt, or the Cotterick's donkey with his shoe hanging clanketa chanketa, or a slut snoring with an impure infant on a bench. 'Twould turn you against life, so it would. And the weather's that mean too. To part from Devlin is hard, as Nugent knew. To leave the clean, tanglesome one lushier than its neighbor in franchisable fields. But let your ghost have no grievance. You're better off, sir, where you are, prime-sighted in the full of your dress, blood-eagle waistcoat and all, remembering your shapes and sizes, on the pillow of your baby curls, under your sycamore by the Keld water, where the Tories' clay will scare the varmints, and have all you want, pouch, gloves, flask, briquet, kerchief, ring and umbrella, the whole treasure of the pyre, in the land of souls with Homin and Broin Baroque and Pole Old Lonan and Nobucket Nuzzler and the Genghis Khan. And we'll be coming here, the Ombre players, to rake your gravel and bringing you presents, won't we, Fenians? And it isn't our spittle will stint you off, is it, druids? Not shapty little imagettes, penny dirts and dodge my eyes you buy in the soutir stores, but offerings of the field. Mieliodoris, the Dr. Faherty, the medicine man taught to good in you. Poppy paps, the passport out. And honey is the holiest thing ever was. Hive, comb, and earwax, the food for glory. Mind you keep the pot, or your nectar cup may yield too light. And some goat's milk, sir, like the maid used to bring you. Your fame is spreading like basilicus ointment, since the Finton Laylas piped you over border, and there's whole households beyond the Bothnians, and they calling names after you. The men here is always talking of you, sitting around on the pig's cheeks under the sacred roof tree, over the bowls of memory where every hollow holds a hallow, with a pledge till the dranks in the salmon house. And admiring to our supershilela, where the palm sweat on high is the mark of your monument. All the toothpicks ever Anesian chewed on are chips chapped from that battery block. If you were bowed and soiled and let down itself from the owner of the load it was that paddy planters might pack up plenty, and when you were undone in every point for the lapse of goddesses, you showed our labor lasses how to free was easy. The game old gun, they do be saying, Sko! That was a planter for you, a spicer of them all. Big but he was, the G.O.G. He's stubborn gun now, and we're after finding the source of his sedic. But peace to his great limbs, the Badhoch, with the last league-long rest of him, while the million-candled eye of Tusker sweeps the Moylian main. There was never a warlord in Great Eriness and Bretland, no, nor in all Pike County like you, they say. No, nor a king, nor an art king, bung king, song king, or hung king. You could fell an elm tree 12 urchins couldn't ring round, and hoist high the stone that Liam failed. Who but a MacCallum the rees of our fortunes, and a fawny man at the funeral to compass our cause? If you was Hogglebully itself, and most fiefty like you was taken waters, still what all? Where was your like to lay the cable, or who was the better could better your grace? Mick McMagnus Macaulay can take you off to the pure perfection, and Leatherbacks Reynolds tries your shuffle and cut. But as Hopkins and Hopkins puts it, you were the rail Aganegi, and a kiss to Tilly up. We calls him the journey all Buggerloff, since he went Jerusalem faring in Assa Manor. You had a gamier cock than Pete, Jake, or Martin, and your arch-goose of geese doubled for All Angels' Day. So may the priest of 7 worms and scalding taboil, Papa Vestray, come never anear you, as your hair grows wheater beside the Liffey that's in heaven. Hep hep hooray there! Hero! 7 times there too we salute you. The whole bag of kids, falcon plumes and jackboots included, is where you flung them that time. Your heart is in the system of the she-wolf, and your crested head is in the tropic of Capricorn. Your feet are in the cloister of Virgo. Your olala is in the region of sails. And that's as sure as you were born. Your shock ticks swell. And that there Texas is tow linen. The lonesome roam to Lafayette is ended. Drop in your tracks, babe. Be not unrested. The head bodil watcher of the temple of Isit, Totum Calmum, saith, I know thee, Mithajar. I know thee, salvation boat. For we have performed upon thee, thou abomination, who comest ever without being invoked, whose coming is unknown, all the things which the company of the precentors and of the grammarians of Christ Patrick's ordered concerning thee in the matter of the work of thy tombing. How of the shipmen, steep fall. Everything's going on the same, or so it appeals to all of us, in the old homestead here. As popular as when Belly the First was king, and his members met in the diet of man. Coughings all over the sanctuary, beds grand to Mount Florenza. The horn for breakfast, Wollongong for lunch, and dinner chime. The same shop slop in the window, Jacob's letter crackers and Dr. Tipple's V cocoa, and the S-word's dissipated soup beside Mother Seagull's syrup. Cold's short, but we've plenty of bog in the yard. Meat took a drop and Rady Parsons failed. But barley's up again, be grain to it. The lads is attending school lessons regular, sir. Spelling bees knees with heather tansy and turning out tables by multiplication. All for the books and never pegging smashers after Tombo, Glassars or Timmy the Tosser. 'Tis really the truth. Now isn't it, Roman Patrics? You were the double-jointed janitor the morning they were delivered, and you'll be a grandfather yet entirely when the right hand seizes what the love arm knows. Kevin's just a dote, with his cherub cheek and his little lamp and school belt and bag of nicks, chalking ogres on walls and playing postman's knock round the diggings. And if the seep were milk, you could leave his old by his side. But, law's sake, the devil does be in that knips of a Jerry sometimes. That Tarantan plate boy, making in cost of income out of the last of his lavings, and writing a blue streak over his birthday shirt. Hetty Jane's a child of Mary. She'll be coming, for they are sure to choose her, in her white of gold with a torch of ivy to rekindle the flame on Felix Day. And Essie Shanahan has let down her skirts. You remember Essie in our Luna's convent? They called her Holly Mary, her lips were so ruddy-berry, and Pierre de Pure when the Red Miners' riots was on about her. Were I a clerk, designate to the Williamswood manufacturers, I'd poster those pouters on every job in the town. She's making her rep at Leonard's twice nightly, with the tabarine tam-tammers of the whirligigmagees. Beats that cachucha flat. 'Twould dilate your heart to go. Say now, you decent man, with your knees and lie quiet and repose your honor's lordship. Hold him there, Ezekiel Irons, and may God strengthen you. It's our warm spirits, boys, he's spurring. Demetrius O'Flagonan, cork that cure for the Clancarties. You swamped enough since Portobello to float the Pomeroy. Fetch me here, Pat Coy, and fetch nu you, Pam Yates. Be nae the ranks of Ramovich. Here's Lombos. Where misty swaddlem, where mishes lodge none, where mysteries poke hind on, O sleepy. So be yet. I've an eye on queer Bee and an old Kate and the butter, trust me. She'll do no juggly-wuggly with her war souvenir postcards to help me build me Muriel. Tippers, I'll trip your traps. As sure there. And we put on your clock again, sir, for you. Did or didn't we, share stutterers? so you won't be up in a stump entirely, nor shed your remnants. The stern wheels crawling strong. I seen your missus in the hall, like Queen O'Weir. Arrah, it's herself, that's fine, sure, don't be talking. Shirk sense? You story and Harry chap longer, me Harry chap story and grasswoman plouthy good trout. Shakes hands. Dibble hate folks wrong with her, only her legs sadik. Bald tip does be yawning and smirking cat's hours on the Pollock's woolly round tabaret cushion, watching her sewing a dream together, the tailor's daughter, stitched to her last. Or, while waiting for winter to fire the enchantment, decoying mer nesters to fall down the flue. It's an avalanche that blows no pussy food. If you only were there to explain the meaning, best of men, and talk to her nice of golden silver, the lips would moisten once again, as when you drove with her to Findrinny Fair. What with reins here and ribbons there, all your hands were employed, so she never knew was she on land or at sea or swooped through the blue like Erwinger's bride. She was flirtsome then, and she's fluttersome yet. She can second a song and adores a scandal when the last post's gone by. Fond of a concertina and pairs passing when she's had her 40 winks for supper, after cane cannon and Aberley dimpling, and is in her Merlin chair assotted, reading her evening world. To see is it smarts, full lengths or swaggers. News, news, all the news. Death, a leopard, kills fella and fez. Angry scenes at Stormount. Still a star with her lucky in going aways. Opportunity Fair with the China floods, and we hear these rosy rumors. Ding Tams he noise about all same Harry chap. She's seeking her way, a chickle, a chuckle, in and out of their serial story. Les loves of Sescar et Pervenche, freely adopted to the no virgin's weave. There'll be bluebells blowing in salty sepulchres the night she signs her final tear. The end. But that's a world of ways away, till track lost time. No silver ash or switches for that one, while flattering candles flare. Anastasies, how are you? Further waste than the noblest, says Adams and Sons, the would-pay actioneers. Her hair's as brown as it ever was, and vivy and wavy. Repose you now, Finn no more. For, be that same sake sip substitute of a hooky salmon, there's already a big rowdy ramlet at random on the premises of his haunt of the 100 Borders, as it is told me. Shop illicit, flourishing like a Lord Major or a Bourbois Baybome, litting flop a deadlop, a loose, to lee, but lifting a ben branch a yard along. I vow on the breezy side for shome. The height of Brewster's chimney, and as broad below as Phineas Barnum, humping his share of the shows as is sinking on him, he's such a grandfather. With a pocked wife in pickle that's a fly fire, and 3 lice nittle clinkers, 2 twilling bugs, and 1 midget pucelle. And either he cursed and recursed and was ever seen doing what your forefooters saw, or he was never done seeing what you cool pigeons know. Weep the clouds a boon for smile-down witnesses. And that'll do now about the fairy he's and the frailty she's. Though Aesop fiddle it to the Sephiroth and Artsa zoom it round her heavens forever. Creator, he has created for his creatured ones a creation. White monotheist, red theatrocrat, and all the pink prophets co-healthing? Very much so. But however 'tis sure for one thing, what Sheriff Tor voucher for us and Mapkick makes put out, that the man, the cheapener-esque, overseen as we thought him, yet a worthy of the name, came at this time-colored place where we live in our parochial firmament, one tied on another, with a bum rush in the hull of a wherry, the twin turbine Dow the bay for Dyoublong, this archipelago's first visiting schooner, with a Wicklow pattern waxen wench at her prow for a figurehead, the Dead Sea dugong up-dip dripping from his depths, and has been repreaching himself like a fishmummer these 60-10 years ever since, his shebai by his side, Eddie and Aid, growing whorish under his turban and changing cane sugar into cellulose starch. Tut-tut says to him. As also that, Baton the bulky hood he bloats about when inebriated, our old offender was humile, commune, and insectious from his nature, which you may gauge after the by-names was put under him in lashons of languages, Onain sui and praisers be, and, totalisating him, even hemes him of hemes him, that he, sober serious, he is E, and no counter he, who will be ultimately responsible for the hubbub caused in Edinburgh.